What should you do when your plans aren't going as you expected? The psalmist in Psalm 33, that was what was happening to him. We don't really know, and I don't really know what happened to the psalmist or what he was going through. But apparently the psalmist was experiencing some sort of difficulty, some sort of problem. And it seemed like, because he's talking about plans in a lot of Psalm 33, that the plans and the words and the things that he was doing were being frustrated. And things weren't turning out like he expected. And so what happens is, throughout most of Psalm 33, the psalmist is making statements of things that he believes in. And he makes these statements about what he says and knows is true about God. So he says, for example, in verses 4 and 5, "For the word of the Lord is upright, and all his work is done in faithfulness. He loves righteousness and justice, and the earth is full of the loving kindness of the Lord." Again in verse 11 and 12, "The counsel of the Lord stands forever, and the plans of his heart from generation to generation. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom he has chosen for his own inheritance." And then finally, in verses 18 and 19, "Behold, the eye of the Lord is on those who fear him, on those who hope for his loving kindness, to deliver their soul from death and to keep them alive in famine." So after the psalmist, Psalm 33, has experienced this difficulty and has had his plans frustrated, and after he has already kind of resolved in his own heart what he believes is true and is true about God and who he is, in verses 20 through 21, he makes these three statements. And these statements are his vow about what he's going to do from now on, what he's going to do at this point in his life. And they are the three things that you can do too. And you should vow to do too if you feel like your plans have been frustrated. The first of those is in verse 20, and that is wait. Vow to wait for God because you know he's your help. Verse 20 says, "Our soul waits for the Lord. He is our help and our shield." Now, the Hebrew word for wait doesn't simply mean to cease activity and do nothing. The idea for wait here in the Hebrew is an eager expectation that something's going to happen and looking forward to that. And looking at that, you're waiting for that thing in hope that it's coming, knowing that it's coming. So he says he knows God's his help. He knows God's his shield. Those are grounded on those things that I just talked about in verses 4 through 5, 11 through 12, and 18 through 19. He says since he knows God is his help, he knows God is his shield, he vows to wait in expectation to see what God's going to do in his life. And that's the first thing you can do too when your plans have been frustrated. The second thing he says he's going to do is rejoice. He's going to rejoice because he knows that he can trust God's reputation and his character. Verse 21 says, "For our heart rejoices in him because we trust in his holy name." He says he can rejoice because he trusts in God's holy name. The concept of God's holy name is the idea of God's name represents his reputation to people, how he presents himself to people, and his character that he is to people. And so the psalmist says, since we know who God is, we know we serve a God who's good. We know we serve a God who watches over those who are his people. We know we serve a God who has a plan, and God's plan can't be frustrated. Since we know God's name, his character, and his reputation, we can trust him, and therefore we can rejoice today. He says, I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to rejoice, because I know, and during this time, I can trust God in what I'm going through. So he says, I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to rejoice. And then third, he says he's going to ask for God to show him his loving kindness. In verse 22, it says, "Let your loving kindness, Lord, be upon us according as we have hoped." The Hebrew word for loving kindness, hesed, was one of meaning God's loyal faithfulness to his covenant people. The fact that he forgives them, that he loves them, that he's always faithful to them. He always steadfastly is with them. And the psalmist says, he's asking this, God, show me your loving kindness, show me your mercy, your love, your faithfulness, because we have hoped in you, according to the hope that we have in you, God. What's cool is that when you move into the New Testament, we see that this idea of hoping in God is the way to bring God's loving kindness, really finds its ultimate fruition in Jesus Christ. That when we place our faith in Jesus Christ, God promises that he comes to us and he gets a relationship with us, a covenant relationship with us, and that he loves us, and that he's there for us and he forgives us. And multiple places the New Testament shows that, when we're with Jesus, when we're weak, then we're strong. For if Jesus, that God is for us, who can be against us? There's so much that say that our hope, when you place your hope in Jesus, that hope can bring a confidence in God's steadfast love. And so, like the psalmist, if you feel like your plans have been frustrated, you can do these same three things. You can first vow to wait on God, knowing that he is your help and your shield during this time. You can vow to rejoice in God, knowing that you can trust him, and you can vow that you're going to ask God, show me your love today, show me your faithfulness, show me your mercy, because God, I have placed all my hope in Jesus Christ. So that means if you haven't placed your hope in Jesus Christ, you need to do that today. And then if you have, you can make those three decisions. They're hard. It's hard to wait on God when you want things to happen now. It's hard to rejoice in God when you don't really feel like rejoicing. It's hard to ask God to come to you and to continue to place your hope in God. But if you place your hope in Jesus Christ through his strength and his help, you can do it. And you can see God move in your life just like the psalmist is hopeful for in Psalm 33. So if you are glad that God is your help, if you are glad that God is good, if you are glad that God promises to send his love and kindness to you, if you place your hope in Jesus Christ, hit that like button on this video. And if you need to place your faith in Jesus Christ, comment below or message me. I'd love to talk to you.